No! Lille have won Ligue 1 for the first time since 2011 and only the fourth time in their 76-year-long history. PSG have been defeated for only the second time in nearly 10 years, which is probably a reason you clicked on this video. Rather than overcomplicate this magnificent story, I, the Euro expert, am going to go month by month through the season of Lille and see what players at different times shone and what cogs came into play and how they eventually were crowned the champions. If you're new to Ligue 1, this is the video for you. I'm going to be making it as accessible as possible so you can understand what is one of the most greatest stories in modern footballing history.
Here's the chance for Koeman! And there's the opening goal of the Champions League final. And it's the best passage of play we've seen so far from Bayern Munich. Paris Saint-Germain 0, Bayern Munich 1.
Starting in August, Lille were quite easily able to gain an early 4-point lead over rivals PSG and Lyon as they were stuck in the Champions League of the previous season. By the time September 10th rolled around, Lille were gearing up for their third game while PSG were gearing up for their first game of the season, barely 20 days after they just lost to Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. PSG had to play newly promoted Lens without Icardi, Mbappe, Di Maria, Neymar, Marquinhos, Keylor Navas and more due to a litany of injuries and COVID. They had also lost Edinson Cavani, Thomas Meunier and Thiago Silva on free transfers, and Leonardo, the sporting director, was yet to bring in any reinforcements. That meant their starting 11 against Lens mainly consisted of academy players, and they were beaten 1-0 in a shock opening game. Lille may have still won Ligue 1 if PSG had had a bit of a break, but by the 14th of September, PSG had played 2 games and had 0 points, and Lille had an 8-point lead over them. Lille were hardly on winning form though, as they had only won 2 games and drawn 2 by this point. What had become very clear though is that they had one of the best defences in Europe. Summer signing Sven Botman from the Ajax B side slotted in at centre back with Jose Font, and then two ran Ligue 1 the entire season. It was a perfect match because 38-year-old Jose Font would sit back and be a bit more measured, whereas Botman was completing the second most interceptions per game in the Lille squad as he was racing out of the back four. Flanked by Mozambique left back Ronaldo and Turkish right back Zeki Çelik, this defence would only concede 1 goal in September, and they would only go on to concede 22 goals across the season, which is the best defensive record in Europe this year. Saying this though, Lille's attack was kind of faltering them. They went into October 2nd place with 11 points. They had won 3 and drawn 2, and they needed to score more goals. Thankfully, October was the month that Jonathan Bamba came alive. The Saint-Etienne Academy graduate had joined Lille in 2018 and had come off the back of a really poor season for Lille. Thankfully for Les Dogues, Bamba had started the season well, already scoring 2 in the first 5 games. But he would drag Lille through October in matches against Strasbourg, Lens and Lyon. He assisted Lille second in a 3-0 win over Strasbourg, and then in the derby over Lens, he scored 2 and assisted 1 in a thumping 4-0 victory over the newly promoted side. On the first day of November, Bamba's fantastic long shot is what earned a valid point against Lyon in a 1-1 draw for Lille. The 25-year-old would go on to score 6 and assist 9 in the Ligue 1 season, and he looks ready for a Premier League move. Moving into November though, Lille entered their worst form of the entire season. They'd lost their first game of the season against Stade Brest, and they drew with the world's most boring team, Saint-Etienne. Only a victory over newly promoted Lorient, a team including Chelsea loanee Trevor Chalobah, secured any points in the month of November for Lille. During this time though, their stalwart defensive midfielder Benjamin Andre shone the brightest in the team. He was the man of the match in each of these focus games, and he completed 10 defensive actions against Saint-Etienne, which is N'Golo Kante numbers. Funnily enough, he's completed the second most tackles and interceptions in the entirety of France this season. Going into December though, Lille needed to step it up. Though they stood just 2 points off PSG, Thomas Tuchel's side hadn't lost since that early season hiccup, besides a freak result in Monaco. The tension was building though, as December would be Lille's busiest month, as they played 7 matches in just 23 days in December. This is where manager Christophe Galtier had to call on the rest of the squad. Lille may have just used 21 players in Ligue 1, but make no mistake, their squad rotation is what has won them Ligue 1. They defeated Monaco 2-1 in the opening game of December, where Burak Yilmaz set up his Turkish teammate Yusuf Yazici in a 2-1 win. The next week they won 2-1 against Bordeaux, where Jose Font scored a bullet header from a Jonathan Bamba corner. 7 days later, Lille eased past soon-to-be relegated Dijon, with Yusuf Yazici and Timothy Weah linking up. Yes, that is the son of the great Jules Weah. This performance allowed Lille to rest some of their key players for next week's game against PSG, where they managed to earn a solid point in the 0-0 draw. They closed out the month of December with a 3-2 win over Montpellier in a dramatic game where Burak Yilmaz, Timothy Weah and Jonathan Kone all scored. Lille went into the winter break joint top with Lyon, as Thomas Tuchel had also just been sacked from PSG on Christmas Eve, with Mauricio Pochettino coming in to replace him. They started 2021 like a wet fart though. In the background, there have been huge financial difficulties as their owner, Gerard Lopez, was forced to sell the club under massive financial stress. People were worried players like Renato Sanchez, a vital cog in the side, would be sold hastily to make money in January with no reinforcements brought in. This nerves clearly got to them in the first game of 2021 where they lost to Angers 2-1 at home. Thankfully for Lille, their defence managed to hold out strong for the rest of the month, and that defence included another name we haven't mentioned, Mike Maignan, the goalkeeper. Maignan is widely accepted to be the heir to Hugo Lloris in the French national side, and in the month of January after that loss to Angers, he only conceded 1 goal. Throughout the season, he ended up keeping 21 clean sheets for Lille, with the potential to go to 22 depending on what happens against Angers. For context, Petr Cech set the Premier League record for clean sheets, keeping 24. This resurgence in January pushed Lille 2 points clear of Lyon at the top of the table and 3 points clear of PSG, who was stuttering under Pochettino. However, leading into the second half of the season and thus February, Lille needed a lot more than their amazing goalkeeper. The fixture list read as Bordeaux away, Nantes away, at home to Brest, the team they lost earlier in the season to, away at relegation strugglers Lorient, who sat in the bottom 3, and finishing February against Strasbourg. All of these sides were fighting for safety points, so Lille were not going to be able to defend against these teams, they were going to have to attack. Up until this point, Lille would spread their goal scoring duties across the team, with their record signing, Jonathan David, thus failing so far. In fact, when he scored his first goal for the club, which came in November, the rest of the team celebrated as if they won the Champions League. He'd only got 2 goals before January, but February came his awakening. He scored the 3rd goal in the game against Bordeaux, killing the side off before they could get back at them. And he followed it up with 2 goals next week against Nantes, grabbing Lille the win and grabbing them 6 points in their first 2 games of February. He would then score another 5 goals in the running, with his confidence fully coming back to him. At this point, we reached the final third of the season at the beginning of March, where Lille had 11 games left of the season. They held a 2-point lead over PSG at the top of the table, however Lyon were creeping behind, 3 points away, and even worse, Monaco were just 4 points off of them. In France, 4th place does not get a Champions League spot, so Lille theoretically could have gone from top of the table to the Europa League in just a couple of games. Over the next 2 months, Lille would have to play Marseille, Monaco, PSG, Montpellier and Lyon, all before the month of May. It was a dreadfully daunting fixture run, and there was no player who could shine throughout all of this besides one man, their manager, Christophe Galtier.
Devant, je pense pas qu'on soit la meilleure équipe, mais j'ai un groupe extraordinaire. Il y a un état d'esprit extraordinaire. Mais en étant très honnête, je ne cherche pas à enlever de la pression parce qu'il n'y a pas de pression.
He moved to Lille in 2017 in his second managerial job, and after a bit of a rough start, him and the scouting network have carefully constructed a side that is one of the most exciting in Europe. Throughout the season, he kept all the plates he could spinning, whether that was the league form, the happiness of the squad, or even the Europa League, where only narrowly went out to Ajax in the round of 32. He's a very careful guy in the media, never putting pressure on Lille to get the title, but also not underplaying their chances and thus keeping confidence high. In the first game against Marseille, Lille completely decimated them and had 23 shots to them as they won 2-0. In the next week against Monaco, who were in conquering form, Galtier managed to get his 4-4-2 reverted to a more defensive setup, and so Lille grinded out a 0-0 scoreboard draw. But then Lille followed it up with a 2-1 defeat to second bottom Nimes. This put all the pressure on Galtier and the rest of the squad for their next fixture, away at the Parc des Princes, playing PSG pretty much for the title. Though PSG were on a high, having just qualified for the semi-finals of the Champions League, Galtier managed to nullify the likes of Mbappe and Neymar. Mbappe had just 1 shot in the game, and Neymar got himself sent off, getting so frustrated at having basically no opportunities. The man of the moment though was of course Jonathan David. He sealed a famous 1-0 victory that put Lille in the driving seat for the title. They would follow up this momentous result with a 2-0 win away at Metz, and then a 1-1 draw against Montpellier, which was a tricky fixture. Then they had to play Lyon away from home. Now remember what I said earlier about the 4th spot not getting the Champions League? Well, if Lyon beat Lille this game, then Lille would have dropped from 1st to 4th and thus out of the Champions League spaces, and Lyon would have leapfrogged them to 1st. They of course are the other team that's kept up with PSG and Lille this entire season, and they lined up with Islam Slimani and Memphis Depay to try and leapfrog Lille and get an unlikely title victory. And they started superbly, going 2-0 up inside 35 minutes, and it looked completely done for Lille. But it was in this game, in this exact moment you see on screen, that the final hero of this Lille triumph came to the light.
At Yilmaz. Oh, what an effort! Super goal! 2-1, game on, and it is a game. Some game this.
35-year-old Burak Yilmaz arrived in the summer to Lille in his first season outside of Turkey. It was a very curious transfer for a club that was so in favour of youth development, but in hindsight it was a masterstroke. Lille's squad was talented, young and exciting, but they were very vulnerable, and so Yilmaz and Jose Font, the two elder statesmen of the team, were keeping the side in check and managing to lead them through the tougher moments in the season. At 6'2", Yilmaz is a defender's nightmare, and he was the talisman whenever he was on the pitch, and at this point he had scored 10 goals and assisted 4 going into the Lyon game. But it was at this point he turned a great season into an unforgettable one. His fantastic free kick on the brink of half-time got Lille back into the match. He then played it across for Jonathan David to equalise, and then in the dying minutes he ran through and chipped Anthony Lopez to seal a momentous victory. It sent Lille to 73 points, just 5 games away from potentially winning Ligue 1. Yilmaz was the one to keep the team going too, as he then played against Nice the next week, scoring a great long shot, and then he thumped in a wonder strike the next week against Lorient, and then Lille drew 0-0 to Saint Etienne, putting all the pressure on the final game. If Lille didn't match PSG's result, then they would have lost the title on the final day. But if Lille matched the result or just won their game, they would be crowned Ligue 1 champions.
Oh, Renato Sanchez has poked it through. David! That could be the goal that delivers Lille the title. They are ahead. They've settled quickly. They've conquered their nerves. They lead at Angers. At the moment, the title is heading to North East France, and Jose Font, the suspended captain, leads the early celebrations.
Di Maria delivers. Oh, that's awkward, it's in! Oh, you can't believe it. And has looped and dipped and swerved all the way in from Angel Di Maria, and Paris Saint-Germain lead.
Here's Itzy. That's a good ball looking for David. He's in here for a possible second. Round the goalkeeper and a penalty. Strikes it in confidently. Angers 0, Lille 2. Their player of the season has edged them closer to the title in 2021. They can see the glimmer of the silverware. Oh, but they've conceded a goal and they're wretchedly unhappy the fact that Fulgini gets a deserved goal for Angers.
This is clever. It really is a clever finish from Fulgini. He's been the main threat for Angers tonight.
And Paris Saint-Germain will have heard the news and they'll be hoping the referee will add on a few more seconds. They want it over. Look at them. All of a sudden the happy faces have turned to concerned faces, anxious faces. Is there going to be another twist in this remarkable season?
Yes, Jonathan, they're screaming for the final whistle. There it is.
The final whistle comes. Lille are champions of Ligue 1. Lille are champions of France after a decade in the waiting. The flags of Turkey on the backs of Burak Yilmaz